I'm taking this topic and turning it into a fresh, commentary-driven YouTube script. No paraphrasing of the source line for line, no rehashing the same structure. Instead, we'll lean into a creator's voice, gaps filled with personal interpretation, bold opinions, and speculative insight. Let's dive in. What if we zoom out for a second and ask a bigger question? What does a vanity project look like in a world where every moment is captured and shareable? Today we're talking about Melania Trump's new documentary, and a million little details that say more about public image, media cycles, and how power couples behave under the glare. Personally, I think this situation reveals a tension between personal branding and political action that's easier to notice when you step back from the headlines. The hook here is simple but sharp. A $75 million film that some people see as a vanity project lands right when a president is in a high-stakes international moment. What makes this really interesting is how audiences react differently depending on their views about fame, privacy, and accountability. From my perspective, the timing isn't just a sidebar. It's a signal about how the culture treats presidential spouses as public figures, sometimes independent of the office they share. Let me break down 3 core ideas, with the kind of analysis I'd want to hear in a long-form video essay. Idea 1. The optics problem, and why Melania's response matters more than the film itself. I think the optics aren't just about pretty shots or a glamorous life. They're about control of a narrative in real time, especially when your partner is making decisions that affect global safety. What many people don't realize is that public perception can swing policy leverage, funding, or political capital, even if the subjects aren't running for office. If you take a step back and think about it, a documentary release is a micro-PR event designed to shape a memory of a moment, not just document a past year. This raises a deeper question. Who gets to curate the legacy when the presidency is a moving target and the media cycle never stops? Personal interpretation. I'd guess the filmmakers and publicists anticipated some clash between the film's intimate tone and the president's aggressive policy moves. The mismatch itself becomes content, a real-time case study in how private stories collide with public crises. The film can feel like a shield or a spotlight, depending on who's watching and why. Broader trend. We're seeing more executive family, branding in political life, with spouses becoming media brands in their own right. That shifts the power dynamics. Branding becomes diplomacy, and a heavy-handed vanity project can appear as either charisma or distraction depending on the viewer's lens. Idea 2. The meta-joke of a film that's a frontrunner for the Razzies while being compared to an Oscar darling. I think the juxtaposition is both funny and telling. It exposes how audiences calibrate value. Art, fame, and relevance don't always align with critical reception. What makes this really interesting is that the same person can be at the center of a multi-million-dollar cultural artifact and a political controversy at the same time. In my opinion, this isn't just about whether a documentary is good or bad. It's about how people assign moral and cultural worth to projects tied to powerful figures. A detail I find fascinating is the theater of opinion dynamic. The comparison to an Oscar-nominated film invites people to judge the project on prestige, not just content. That tension reveals how media ecosystems reward spectacle in different forms. Award season gravitas versus controversy-driven attention. What this implies, when a public figure leans into film as a legacy play, the critique path branches into aesthetics and ethics. The audience then must decide whether the work serves a personal storytelling goal or a strategic brand-building mission. This mirrors a bigger trend where art intersects with political symbolism, and people debate intention as much as impact. Idea 3. The phone call montage as performative intimacy, and why it lands as a moment of human inconsistency. I think the clip reveals the odd privilege of private moments captured for mass consumption. What makes this moment worth pausing on is not the melodrama, but the small tells, a casual acknowledgement, a nonchalant status update, a moment of "I did not" that signals distance or detachment. From my perspective, this is where the persona checks itself against real-life responsibility. What people misunderstand. People often read these scenes as either proof of indifference or proof of devotion. In reality, it's the texture of a relationship under public surveillance, where every expression is amplified, misread, or weaponized, depending on who watches. how it connects to a bigger trend. The era of reactive media means private sentiment becomes public currency. The more a figure markets their personal life, the more that life becomes a battlefield of perception, not just memory. Deeper insight: what this moment says about policy, media, and the economy of attention. The broader pattern here is how celebrity, power, and media infrastructure converge to shape a narrative that can influence voters' feelings even when policy decisions are still the main theaters of action. The film's reception intersects with how people process leadership during tense times, whether we reward vulnerability or we demand consistency and accountability. This is not just a media story. It's a study in how culture negotiates legitimacy in the age of constant scrutiny. Closing thought: a question for viewers to chew on. If you're watching this unfold, what does it reveal about your own criteria for judging public figures? Do you separate the art from the act, the message from the messenger, or do you see them as inseparable parts of the same public persona? I'm curious to hear what you think. Does a personal documentary linked to a political moment change how you perceive the people involved, or does it simply reinforce your existing stance? Let me know in the comments what moment, whether in this case or in future stories, changes how you think about leadership, fame, and responsibility. Thanks for sticking with me through this breakdown. If you found the angles provocative, drop a like and share with someone who loves dissecting celebrity politics. And if you want more deep dives like this, tell me which public figure or moment you want me to unpack next. I'll bring the same mix of critique, context, and crack the code storytelling.